Hey, welcome to the conversation that's as diverse as the dogs that we adore. This is Gun Dogs and Guard Dogs, the ultimate podcast dedicated to talking sense about dogs, with Les Graham and Ross McCarthy. They work with all breeds of dog, but one specialises in gun dogs and the other prefers guard dogs. No flashy trends or social media hype here, just tried and true knowledge that stands the test of time. They bring you valuable insights and honest conversations about the social predator you share your home with. So here we go. About 45 minutes of gun dogs, guard dogs, good dogs, some maybe not so good dogs, and a dash of gossip.
So here we are again, Les, joined today by Adem Fehmi, dog behaviourist and trainer based in Hertfordshire, who I think we've both known for many years. He's been around for
Forever.
decades. Yeah, I think about 26 years in the industry or whatever. But so anyway, welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Ross and Les, for having me.
Pleasure. Before we delve into sort of what you're doing now and what you're up to and what's upcoming and stuff, what's your kind of dog journey been like? Why dogs, and where did it start, and how did you get to where you're at now?
Oh, okay. So as a kid, I always had sort of a natural love for animals, nature, great outdoors, that sort of thing. David Attenborough's birthday today, I see, 100 years old. Happy birthday, Sir David. And watching just natural, the nature programs, these sorts of things, I just fell in love with animals and dogs. Being around as a kid, it was like glue. We were like glue. And my parents split when I was very young, and actually the animals and nature and being out and about really helped me. Looking back, horses behind the house, that sort of thing. We didn't have pets. I think we had a cat, an older cat, and but I remember going to see the horses, and they had dogs. The ladies, they were really kind, and they would let me give like the horses an apple and a carrot, and I remember just thinking of those moments being like non-stressful. And of course, from there, I wanted a little dog. We got a little Westie called Trigger.
Were you allowed a little dog, were you? How old were you then when you got your first dog?
Yeah, I mean, I think my mum found a little Westie. It was obviously from a puppy farm. Came from Wales on the train. And I remember actually going to a place in Bedfordshire, and there was just like all these random breeds. Thinking back now, it was chaos. And she was like, I can get a Westie. And I remember my mum liking the West Highland Terrier. And she was like, okay, we'll have one of them. She wasn't massively keen to get a dog, but obviously I was quite pushy, very young. Yeah, probably you wouldn't probably advise that now to a parent. But little Trigger came along, very messy, scruffy little dog. And my mum was like, you're gonna have to do some training with him. I remember him chasing the cat up the patio. He was quite unruly, and he nipped me actually at one point, and my mum was like, right, we've got to do some training. Meant I had to do some training with him, and I from there went to a Nebworth Dog Club, which is local to us, and met up with the obedience world really. People like Sylvia Bishop, Viv and Barry
Wow.
Knight, yeah, Julie Jones, these guys, they were all into obedience. The Mary Rays sort of came into the scene and things as well, with their dancing dogs. And
Mhm.
it was obedience, simple obedience in halls, lots of collies, lots of shepherds. And then I rock up with my I Love Westie bag and Trigger, who sort of took the hall by storm, really. And they took me under their wing. They let me join the committee. They were very sweet. And I used to love those Friday nights that we used to go to. And I looked forward to it so much, looking back, actually. And yeah, we used to have a cup of tea, the little hatch in the halls.
Yeah, yeah.
We
Cup
did
of
our
tea and
party.
custard creams.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
great, actually. And I loved it, and it went from there. There, guys. I went and worked in groomers, boarding kennels, and have done everything with dogs, really, from dogs in conservation to farm work, gun dogs. I've seen these dogs in different contexts, whether it be boarding, grooming, in their houses, agility, all of the disciplines, working trials, and it's just grown and naturally.
And what do you do now? What's your sort of working week like typically then? What is it? I guess it's pretty varied with split between training and seeing behavior clients and stuff.
Yep. So we've got a very busy dog training school here in Hertfordshire. We have about 130 dogs a week, and we're looking to help these dogs through puppy, bronze, silver, gold. And we've made our own syllabus, a bit like the Kennel Club Good Sits, that sort of thing. But we've
Uh-huh.
adapted it slightly to include things like coffee shop breaks. We set dogs up for settling. The modern day dog, in a
Yeah.
way, is asked a lot of. And that's something we help people with. So training classes, we add some agility in, pet fun agility in with those groups. We have a platinum as well, which is things like memory retrieves, find it
Nice.
games. We keep it fun. We try to get owners, we educate owners. We're trying to help them all the time, go through dogs' life stages. I always say nursery school, junior school, that university get a job stage where dogs might start to hunt, work, become territorial. We want we want to help owners along the way. So that's one element with the training. And then of course we've got behavior where we're looking, I will be going into people's homes, out on walks with people. They come to the dog training school where we'll do behavioral work with dogs that are my own, or I've got people that help as well. So we can rehabilitation, as you guys know, is no quick fixes in many cases. We work with people over time. So I'll be doing behavior, and we do a little bit of gun dog stuff with clients that I've been, as saying to you guys, that have been known for a long time. I assess for local authorities as well, do media work. So this weekend I'm away at Porfest actually, which is an event in Kent, and I'll be answering questions. There's questions and answers, the microphone on, do live demos. So it's really quite varied, Ross. And yeah, I love it. I love every minute of it, to be fair.
Mm.
And I know we'll be seeing you at the London House of Wellbeing, Ross, because you're judging at the Greenwich Dog Show, right?
Yeah, Greenwich Dog Show, 24th of May. I'd kind of forgotten about that, but I saw a socials post this morning saying meet the judges, and I had a look to see who the judges were, and
It
there
was
were a lot.
you.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what are you doing there, Adam?
So I will be in an area where we are going to be helping dogs with their owners. So giving behavioral advice, training advice, and talking all things dogs. I'll be demonstrating with how we can best use food with dogs to help physically and mentally enrich, train, and also how we can use it in different life stages. So for a puppy, for example, we might use food to prevent things like mouthing, help an owner out. We might use food to rehabilitate, to train or teach an action such as calm or down. But also toy box, we'll be going through how we can best use our toy box within the home and out on walks, get owners to be thinking about enriching in the right way through the different range of toys, and also how to structure walks. I'm a big believer in making exercise constructive. This is a well-being show. Exercise is so important for our dogs and us, and is a great place for dogs and owners to really meet and engage. So we'll be talking all things well-being, health, and these guys will also be giving the opportunity for your dogs to look at nutrition, gut health. There's reflexology, I know, and yoga and things like that there too.
That's cool. Do we get a bit of reflexology included, do we?
There is definitely human stuff there, Ross. Yeah, you should get in there.
I can see that. There's breath work, reflexology,
Yeah.
Reiki for the dogs and the owners, which is fantastic. Dogs respond really, really well to Reiki.
Have you got experience of that, Liz, with the Reiki, the dogs?
Yeah, Reiki master. Been a Reiki master since 1999.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, this show, the London House of Wellbeing show, there will be right up your street. And I think that's the idea. It's like healthy owners equal healthy dogs. And then you guys are behaviorists too, and you'll know when dogs are maybe behaving in a way an owner is not keen on or unhappy with. We could see stress
Mhm.
and anxiety that can make relationships dip, and our job's to help those owners improve those relationships. So we want owners to be happy with and dogs to be happy too. I think that's the thing. We get so much from dogs, but we've got to make sure that we are fulfilling their days too, and make sure that we are
Mm,
appreciating what they need. And that's
mm,
really what we want to do, is bring owners and dogs together. I always say we're a nation of dog lovers, right? But understanding dogs is the big thing for
mhm.
me. It's getting people want to understand them, but we put a lot of human emotions into dogs. We do love them, of course we do, but that understanding is key.
How
Absolutely.
how have you seen? I was going to ask you this anyway, and then maybe we'll get back to the events that you attend and stuff. But how have you seen things change over the last sort of 30 years or whatever? Then that you've been like talking about well-being of dogs and how we should be, treating them and exercising them and feeding them appropriately and being mindful of all of that. How have you seen kind of dogs and owners change over the time that you've been working?
That's a really good question, Ross, because there's been huge change. I mean, we look at just breeds, for example. When I first started with dogs, we weren't seeing breeds like Cavachons, Cockapoos.
Mm,
These would be
mm,
called crossbreeds, mongrels, that sort of thing, right? So there's been a huge increase in the number of dogs, the situations we're taking dogs into, like Airbnbs, coffee shops, pubs. We weren't asking dogs of that 25 years ago, right? In the same way. It's changed hugely. There's more chance for dog being at a zoo now, for example. Can you imagine that 25 years ago, or outside of soft play while kids are playing? We've got dog-friendly garden centres. These are the changes that have come into it. And I don't always think we've been breeding for these things. The domestication process, in a way, has gone slightly wrong in some occasions, in my opinion. Yeah, we've been finding breeders breeding for money, for colour, not necessarily for temperament, not necessarily for these changes that the dog world is experiencing, hence why there's been a bigger increase in dog bites. There's science for this stuff. So in question, we're asking dogs to do different things now. We're not working them in the same ways we used to work them. So, for example, gun dogs are a huge group of dogs that we see in the pet scene. So, if you look at Cockapoos, Labradoodles, these are breeds that have maybe had some gun dog blood put into them, especially when COVID came about, the pandemic. These dogs were entire, ready to breed. So I have been seeing a lot of working blood in pet homes. I'm a behaviourist, so I am seeing extreme behaviours sometimes, but I see it out and about. I was in Camberwell the other weekend, and I counted 5 working cockers walking through Ruskin Park, in
mm,
London. And you're thinking, wow, these are all purebred working cockers. Um, Obsessed with tennis balls, chasing squirrels.
mm,
If they're not doing that, they might be chasing a Deliveroo today. So, it's interesting that these primal breeds, if you like, dogs that are bred to hunt, are ending up in very non-primal contexts, situations. So I think what's changed a lot is the situations we're putting dogs into, what we expect of dogs today, um, going on public transport and all those things.
mm. Do you think we're expecting too much of the dog?
In some cases, yes. I think when we're breeding dogs, Les, that are bred to work, if you look at what some of my gun dog friends are breeding for, they want a dog to run on a Scottish hillside,
Mhm,
cover ground on, like such as heather, retrieve over stone walls, and then we might be finding one of those puppies trying to sit outside a coffee shop for an hour.
mhm, mhm,
Yeah, and you might be finding there's an owner that doesn't have a dog bed with them. It has maybe not exercised the dog sufficiently, doesn't understand the genetics. This can be the case. Not every owner, of course, but that's asking a lot of that dog if it's not we've not been breeding for that.
mhm,
We've been breeding for something else. But those dogs can end up in those contexts. One, because there's a lot of dogs in a litter, but also they're more readily available. Their size suits most homes, but their mental and physical capacity maybe doesn't. What some most pet owners want is a brisk walk around the park, maybe headphones on. Um,
Ball thrower.
yeah, these are not going to be sufficient for that dog that's been bred to do a 7 hour day.
mm.
Ross, with the working rotties, we might be getting imports coming across. Yes, they want the shape for the show ring, but we're bringing high drive dogs. Whereas we might have seen years ago, rotties just for the show ring. We can get imported dogs now for protection work, and they can be crossed with show dogs, even in the rotty world, right? So
Mm,
energy varies hugely, and I think that's the thing as dog owners and as professionals we want to be aware of. We want to make the public aware of the energies that they're buying, the
mhm,
genetics that they're bringing to the park, which I always say is like Darwin's nightmare. That Ruskin Park the other day in London. I mean, I must have seen what 25 dogs within half an hour walking around. You've got Bijons, Frenchies, working cockers, and then a Akita, for example.
mm,
And we're asking of these dogs to go to daycare, in the back of dog vans for walks, etc. It's a lot. So we need the right energies. We need to make sure we're setting our dogs up correctly, setting owners up correctly as well. And owners are doing their research on the dogs that they're purchasing.
Well, that doesn't happen, does it? Which is why you've got a job.
Yeah, I mean, in majority of cases, I would agree with you. It doesn't. I saw a lovely lady the other day, and she'd bought a extremely well bred Bernedoodle. So this, I feel like I can't prove it scientifically because I'm like you guys are going to homes. It's random. I don't have the stats, the numbers to compare, the clean examples to compare. But this pup was very placid, lovely, lovely energy dealing with the home well, the life well. Breeder had set the owner up extremely well. Okay. And then
Nice.
the next morning, I'm seeing a working cocker found on the internet. Yep. Not set up well, not toilet trained at all. Just been in a kennel. So going to the loo. Owner kept the dog nice and neat. Previous owner bred the dog, swept all the kennel out, but we're not setting the dog up for house life. So there's a big difference there within the two pups in energy, setup, breeding, what they're breeding for, if that makes sense. But in
Yeah.
most cases, Ross, I would agree with you. Since the pandemic, people have snap bred. I use the word snap bred. When we're looking at Frenchies that have extremes, the brachycephalic breeds, the colours, people chasing a silver one or
Mm.
a pink
Merle.
nose, a merle, exactly. And we're thinking when this dog's 18 months, actually, I spoke to a lady yesterday and she lost a French bulldog at 19 months. She has a
Yeah.
new dog now and breathing difficulties. This is happening every day.
It's
And
money driven, isn't it? I mean, since COVID, I mean, the price, I don't know how anybody can afford a dog, to be honest. I mean, looking at prices, I mean, you want a Merle, I mean, you want any puppy looking at 2 grand plus, aren't you? But if you want a
Yeah.
Merle French Bulldog or something ridiculous, you're looking at well over sort of 5 grand up to 10 grand. And then people are spending that money and then dumping them off at the rescue like a few months
Yeah.
later.
yeah, exactly. And I think what I would say is rescues are obviously, as we all know, are very overwhelmed. But
Yeah.
when you're looking at things like education is key, right? Whether
Mhm.
we're educating the owners, but it's educating people before they purchase a dog. On no pedigree does it say great outside the garden centre, good with children. Does it say good at the pub? This is what people really want from dogs in many cases. If it's a gun dog person or a farmer with a collie or you, Ross, doing working trials, you know what you're looking for: drive, the ability to work,
Mm.
etc. Those primal qualities: grabbing, catching, hunting. Most people want the non-primal qualities, right? Lay by my feet while I have a coffee.
Yeah.
And of course, this is what we've got to think about when we're purchasing dogs. It's making sure that we are not just saying, "Oh, I saw mum." Yeah, because mum is just coming out of pregnancy. That's like
Mhm.
saying, "My wife just had a baby. I saw mum in the hospital," but that's not seeing her, when she's back at the gym, fit and healthy, and
Yeah.
the energy she is every day. We need to be more aware of these
So,
things.
so do you think, rather than looking at the dogs, this might be a bit controversial, but rather than looking at the dogs, it's more looking at the breeder. So, for example, um, looking at the breeder who, regardless of what the dogs look like, is raising them correctly for the 8 weeks that the dog's got, that they're looking at breeding for calmness and temperament, regardless of what the dog looks like. Whereas most people go in, I mean, I do it as well, I want a black Labrador male, high
Sure.
energy black Labrador. I trust my breeder to give me what I'm looking for. Whereas the emphasis at the minute is, you've got to see the mum, you've got to see the dad, you've got to see. Do we need to take the emphasis away from that in the way that you've just said, Adam? We're seeing the bitch after she's had a litter. She will be calm. She won't be exuding that really high drive energy that she might away from the litter. So is the emphasis, should we be looking at the emphasis more on the breeder? This breeder works because you know what it's like. We both know field trial champions and people who are looking desperate for that field trial champion. They want to breed their own field trial champion.
Yep.
It might take them 15 litters to get there, and each
Yep.
litter might have 10 puppies in it for that one puppy that they're looking for. So should the emphasis be on more what you're saying, look for a breeder who's putting out really, really good quality pet pet dogs, pet lines, rather than what the puppy looks like, and trusting the breeder to give you what we need.
Yeah, I think there's an element of both. I think
Uh-huh.
we need breeders that understand where their blood is going, right? So if
Yeah,
you're looking at a field trial bred cocker, Springer, Labrador, these are
yeah,
going to have a high energy. We know that they're going to want these dogs to run up a side of a grouse moor, pick a bird, come back.
yeah.
In the park, that energy may be um, given a place to go via chase toys like flirt poles or a ball, and the dog could get on perfectly well, right?
Hmm.
Some people might jog with this field trial champion, what I call the red ink in the pedigree.
Oh
If
yeah,
you look
yeah.
at the trial
You
champion,
yeah, you're
um,
doing the red pedigree.
uh, the red ink is the Ferrari of the Labrador world, right? But it could be red in terms on the pedigree and show. So a show Labrador, I always say, is like a low league player. Our field trial champion is like Ronaldo. And
Hmm.
it's understanding that some people do manage with the field trial champion energies within the park. Ross would do fine going around your golf courses that you walk on, Ross, or your parks in London. You live in London with high energy breeds, but you know what you're doing. You know how to use lures properly, such as toys or chase toys, which could replicate chasing, catching, retrieving. So I think, let's to answer your question, the breeders need to be thinking about the owners they're giving these dogs to.
Hmm.
Okay. We also need to be thinking about what we're crossing. So a working cocker cross poodle can still be a very, very high energy dog. A show cocker cross poodle
Absolutely.
could be a lower energy dog. Okay. But on paper and on the internet, it's just a cockapoo.
Cocker. Hmm.
And you'll get a parent typing on Google saying, what's great with kids? Now, 25 years ago, when we're looking for assistance dogs, we're crossing a well-bred poodle with a show cocker, and we're making this guide dog type dog for this job, right? And that was where what we're still living on today when we say cockapoos. And we all know as behaviorists, we're seeing cockapoos that have high levels of hyperattachment, anxiety, possessive
Aggression.
reactivity. Because let's face it, a working cocker on a farm up near you in Scotland is going to have lots of opportunity, Les, to explore. Go round the barns, grab straw, be around other dogs of its same physiology, maybe dodging geese and going on the back of trucks. It's busy, but it's got lots to do. So exploratory wise, as a young dog, it's doing lots. So we might see a reduction in mouthing, but that young working cocker in a small townhouse may go through the toy box very quickly and then start nicking tea towels and socks, and all of a sudden we've got possessive problems under
Hmm.
a table. So it's quite common for these behavioral issues to come out in the pet home, but not in the working home. So the breeder sometimes doesn't even see what those dogs are doing in those contexts.
Hmm.
So we get this sort of area where they'll just go, it's a high energy dog. He's got maybe, I hear it all the time, he's got ADHD, he's got this, he's got
Yeah.
that. But you're not hearing that off gun dog folk because they're running the energy in the right way.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we all need to do our own bit when we're selecting dogs. The breeders need to think about what they're breeding. I don't think the cockapoo, the labradoodle world, the cavapoos, the jackapoos, the breeders are thinking that. They're just thinking, I've got a Jack Russell, there's a poodle. We get
Uh-huh.
huge variation even within the poodle line. Some people are breeding party poodles for colour. Some are coming from show stock. Some have been just siring lots of bitches because they are a poodle that has apricot colour, black colour. Okay, are they a high
Yeah.
energy poodle or are they a low energy poodle? They have personalities. We need to be aware of that. What are we putting over this cocker cavapoo? So I've seen breeders online where they're using a poodle. They've got one stud poodle and then they've got a cavalier. They've got a Jack Russell,
Uh-huh.
Jackapoo, uh, Cavachon, Cavapoo, sorry, Cockapoo. They'll have a cocker as well. So they've got three different breeches, one stud dog, and he's siring all of those pups. And we could be seeing huge variation within the energies of each bitch. So you could go as a novice dog owner and go, oh, look, this is a lovely setup here. This really neat. My Ren and Bertha who I've got go to the scene, lovely whelping box like Les when you've got your gun dogs. But this breeder has a pickup truck. Yep, these dogs are in the countryside. We know what we're going to buy, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. It's a
Yeah.
higher energy working dog. We don't
Mhm.
always know that when we're buying from the internet.
No.
And I think to answer your question, Les, it's about the breeders doing their part, the buyer doing their part, and better education in terms of from large charities, from us guys, organizations that affiliate with behaviorists, and at events, big dog events, we need that education. I do get sometimes frustrated. I'm probably going on a bit of a rant now, guys, but as a behaviorist, I don't want to see so many celebrities on TikTok, on Instagram. I want to see
No.
information. I don't want to see another celebrity how much they love dogs. And it's so frustrating because with behavior, it's not always exciting. It is sometimes dull, boring, repetitive. We need to be consistent. We need to be positive, of course. It doesn't make great TV, great social media, but dogs are suffering and people are suffering with dogs. And our job is to try and help them enjoy the best relationship they can. And sometimes that does mean helping them at a very early stage when purchasing, if that makes sense. So I think it's our job as behaviorists and experts. Education's key. It's also the breeders' jobs to do their research, know what they're breeding, know where their puppies are going, be responsible. And also, as an owner, really think about the dog that you're getting. Don't just think about the puppy stage. That would be like me just thinking about my son George at 2 now, neonatal energy young. I've got to take that child all the way through nursery school, junior school, up to that university. It's never going to end financially, probably either.
Yeah,
But what we're looking
it
at
never ends. It never
is
ends.
making sure we've got that commitment. We know where those dogs are going to be in 18 months' time because we're going to be living with them for a longer period as adults than we are puppies, right? So breeders have got to do their bit, owners have got to do their bit, and we need education, education.
And I think you're right. People they find it very difficult to see past the puppy stage. And like for me, I always say to people, you've got a puppy, and it's your responsibility to raise a well-mannered member of society. In the way we do it with children, it's got to be well-mannered. It's not aggressive to be able to take anywhere, put in social situations for the rest of its life for 10 years, not just having a little fluffy puppy in your arms that people want to come and stroke. Because at some point, people aren't going to want to stroke your dog when it's like 50 kilograms or 40 kilograms.
Yeah.
They're not going to want it. Yeah.
And I think Les there and Ross, you'll probably vouch for it with your Rotties, right? They're big energies, working breeds. These working dogs, I've got a working Labrador Bertha. I mean, she's 7 years old. She still has huge amounts of energy. You'd still expect
Yeah.
that dog, not that she does, to be working on a shoot. The breeders that bred Bertha are not worried about so much manners. They want actions in the field, sit
Hmm.
at distance, out, back, retrieve the bird, come home. They might have a kennel as a base rather than a puppy crate or a boot room where the dog may go when there's children visiting. They might not have children visiting. So these
Hmm.
dogs are not living around those contexts. And of course, they might be breeding and putting them dogs into it. So Bertha lives with me, with children, the Jackapoo that we've got here, little mini, and they're besties. But we've got chickens. We're asking very much the unnatural to become natural. Don't chase the chickens. Yep. I need you to sit in garden centres. We go on holiday to Norfolk, Skipton with these dogs. We're at Lavender Farms having a puppuccino. Bertha's owner before me was not reading for this. Okay, so I have to be aware I'm taking her into those contexts. And that's something we need owners to be aware of. Same, Ross, when you get your Rottie puppy, which is going to be very exciting in a few weeks, what you might be doing is working trials or tests with this dog, and you know where you're taking that energy, right?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, like you see, it's talking about going back to that Akita that you saw in the park the other day in London. I see these people buying these breeds, and owning large, powerful breeds in a city is not always, you have to know what you're doing and be mindful of what's around you. But I see these people, they'll pop up with, a Ridgeback puppy or an Akita puppy or something, and just think, what planet are you on to
Uh-huh.
think that you're going to cope with that? And they raise it like they're raising a little border terrier, and you think this is not gonna end well, is it? And it doesn't. And they quickly have to change their behaviour when the dog hits kind of maturity.
Hmm.
I think you're right. I think I see yesterday, for example, I worked with a lovely Dobie and they had a GSP and a very, very old Jack Russell. This Dobie, when you look at the pedigree, it's lots of imported blood from abroad.
Okay.
We know by her shape, they are looking for, well, I know by her shape rather, that we're looking for drive, lean, quick, fast. So this dog's running around a big place in Hertfordshire. It's already starting to be territorial, okay, which is natural when you give a dog 7 acres of that
Hmm.
breeding. So in
Mm.
London, we're not going to give it the same context. You might get more lead frustration because the dog can't run so much, right? So it's understanding what our breeds are going to do. So we know with that little working cocker, by the time it's 18 months, it's probably going to be hunting like a demon. Whereas if we've got a dog that has more, like this Dobie, more of a territorial edge to it, we might be taking a fence line in a garden, barking in a window, okay? Because this is what I'm saying about the breeding. We're not really changing. We're bringing in these breeds that are still doing sling work, arm work. Ross, you'll know more than me about that. But that blood might be coming in because the show world want it, but it ends up in the pet scene. That's what I'm
Yeah.
seeing in many cases. But we come away from the red ink we talked about, Les. That's the gun dog stuff. But we don't see that so much unless it's like Schutzens and these things within
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Shepherds, the Rockies, the Dobies. The Akitas do tend to come from that show world, Ross, but we sort of know what they're going to do as mature dogs, if that makes sense. They're big energies, and we've got to be able to match that energy. And I think that's where we've seen very much with the XL bullies, big problems. People are not getting their energy out in the right way. They're frustrated, they're powerful, and we're not running them in the right way. That's something I see every day, and we've got to help owners understand what these dogs are doing when they're 18 months old, when
You
they're mature.
think some of this also comes down to sort of a societal change whereby, Les and I often talk about sort of fur baby culture or whatever. So it's instead of us
Mm.
having dogs because we want dog, I have dogs because I want dogs. I don't have dogs because I want little fluffy kids.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people they go, they've seen the cockapoo down the road. That's quite nice. I'll have one of those. We didn't realize it came from a working cocker now, and now we've got problems. But they have one because they want one,
Mhm.
and it has to kind of fit in, and they want to put a harness on it, and they just, it's changed completely. Do you think?
I think I see all sorts of people in all walks of life. And I think people, yes, there is definitely the area where we have the fur babies, but I think a lot of people genuinely want to love their dog and understand their dog. It's about the educating. And I can see all sorts of clients throughout a week where we do have people that are maybe thinking they're being too soft, thinking they're being too hard. They've got children that are coming back from university. The reality of dogs is that they've got to muddle into our world, right? And our
Hmm.
worlds vary hugely. So some people, as an opinion of an owner with a dog might be that's you're mothering it, you're babying it. Others will be like, shouldn't be on the bed, shouldn't be on the sofa. This is not what we're wanting to be telling owners. What I want people to understand is what's best for their individual energy. And
Mhm.
and what do you want from this dog? This dog might not be capable to provide you with that. As we talked about earlier on, if we want to just go round the block once and you've got a working cocker, this is not going to happen. So we might get an older working cocker that can deal with that. Does that make sense? And sit on the sofa with them that maybe is a rescue, let's
Hmm.
say. So sometimes it's about picking the right energy for what they want, and that might actually suit that dog, if that makes sense. Does that make sense, Ross?
Yeah,
Mm.
it makes complete sense.
Do
It
you-
is about matching the partnership, isn't it? That's kind of, you
but
know,
Yeah.
has it not always been like that though, Adam? Is it just not more apparent now? Because I know from growing up, we had crossbreeds when I was growing up,
Yes.
and people have always wanted different things from their dogs. Is it not just because there's more dogs and it's more apparent now, with like social media and so on? Because I know, when I was growing up, I had this fantastic little crossbreed, Kim. She came everywhere with me. She did everything. She came horse. I mean, she used to stick on the back of a horse with me. And then the
Yeah.
people across the road had the big old-fashioned black and white border collies,
Yes.
and they
Yes.
did nothing with it. They showed it, and then my mate had a staffy, and he used to take it out when he was on his BMX, going back when BMXs were around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we've always had different expectations for our dogs. Like my friends always had gun dogs, and so, but is it becoming more apparent because there are more breeds noticeable to people because of social media? I know, like Henry Cavill's on social media a lot with his Akita.
Right.
Is that making that breed more noticeable because his Akita is really lovely. You see him
Yes.
cuddling it and he's always doing things with it. It's on the set with them. And it is social media raising awareness of all of these different breeds.
I
Because I
yes.
think we've always expected different things of our dogs. but I think that there's just the breadth of breed now is greater. And since COVID, people are putting out even more so since COVID, putting out all of these designer dogs, like Merle Frenchies and Cavapoos and Cockapoos have been around a while. But do you see what I mean? Does that
Yes.
make sense?
Yes, it does. I think as long as the domestication process has gone with humans and dogs, we've bred the Monks, bred the Tibetan Spaniel, or we've
Yeah, to
got
keep them
the
warm
idea
and
of like,
yeah,
toy poodles, pugs, bichons. We've always bred dogs for what I say we've needed them for, right? Like we bred dogs for food, which is a positive reinforcer. We bred dogs to bet on them, play, which is like our tennis or golf. We bred dogs to be affection orientated. Yeah, that's like personal space stuff for us, which we get a lot of the Bijons, sorry, the Cavapoos and those
yeah,
dogs.
the lap dogs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then we've had dogs that we've even had to be territorial for us, guarding breeds and things.
yeah,
And I think social media can be helpful, but it can also be disastrous for dogs. I mean, I was watching
mhm,
something the other day, and a behaviorist was sort of with these scenes where a behaviorist will pick apart something someone's doing, and it was
yeah,
very educational. But the guy that was holding the dog, he's holding this puppy up like it's something out of the Lion King, and you just think even the way you're holding that puppy is
uh-huh,
dreadful.
hmm
And nobody's commenting underneath, don't hold the dog like that, which if someone had a baby by a foot dangling, we'd all be writing about it. So I think it's
hmm
the way people perceive things. Yes, social media can be a problem. We've got celebrities, we've got all of those things. You can get information to people quicker, but I think that could also work in our favor by um, getting it, good information to people. Don't do this, do this. Okay,
hmm
but I think social media it wants quick fun advice, and of course that's not always what dogs are about in terms
no,
of us
I think
understanding their emotional state and behavioral issues. They're complex. TV programs do the same.
yeah,
We never try to rehabilitate a child with an issue in a 1, 2, 3 scenario. We would really go into it, make sure it's positive, make sure it's progressive, go at the dog's pace, all the things we do as behaviorists. But
mhm,
I think to answer your question, social media, yes, can promote a certain breed, but you could probably find that with big championship shows if a dog wins on TV, right? We could then find
yeah,
that breed
very
becoming
much so.
popular. So I think this has been a thing all the way along. What I feel is that when we look at what we're asking dogs today, we need to be breeding dogs that suit that context. Street dogs coming fresh from somewhere like Romania, are not going to deal with a busy market town in
No,
Yorkshire.
no,
But these dogs haven't been on leads in some cases. They're running in primal packs. They're mating. They are hustling. Island dogs, for example, I've worked with. They'll claim water bowls at daycare. And the
mm,
other dogs are like, "What's going on here?" Or a whippet shoots past, and it thinks, "What on earth was that? I never seen anything that quick
mm,
in
mm,
Romania." So
mm,
the Darwin's nightmare bumps them after a long combi journey, and then we've got maybe people loving these dogs. They've got a well fenced in garden. Poorer rescues maybe giving these dogs out. And I would say that because I've seen it on many occasions where they're not
mhm,
providing the behavioural backup, the support that the bigger charities are doing. So I think we've got to understand what we've always wanted dogs to do. Those changes now that we're asking of dogs need to be appreciated in the genetics, in the way we train our dogs, in the way that behaviorists and trainers work, charities work, legislation works. We need to look at all of these areas, and that education is always key for me. I hope that
mhm.
makes sense.
It does. It does.
Makes complete sense, but often to be negative. I mean, sometimes people you can't educate people, can you? Do you know what I mean? There is a lot of information, like with the internet out there and everything now. You can source information, can't you? You can find out the
Yeah.
reason why a dog was originally developed. Oh, that
Yeah.
was developed as a livestock guardian. Do I need that in my apartment in Acton? Probably not. Let's keep looking. But people very much,
Mhm,
I want it. I want it now. I can have it.
mhm.
I can order Amazon Prime now and it'll be here by 6 o'clock. Same
Yeah.
with the dog. I want a, chocolate coloured, curly, fluffy thing that looks like a teddy bear. So that's what I'm going to have.
hmm hmm
Yeah, and I think again, then when I mentioned things like legislation, selling dogs on sites and these sorts of things, I saw a little puppy the other day. It's actually my wife's friend, a friend of hers was sending her this cute puppy. I mean, the puppy, poor thing, looked ill,
Mm.
Tear stained, um, very, very thin, looked like it had worms. There was feces on the mats in the background. You're thinking, what are we doing sending? I mean, who sees cuteness in that rather than that's not a good setting? Does that make
No.
sense? I would be looking at those things, looking at a picture like that, and that's where education's key. And Sally would write back to her friends saying, "This puppy doesn't look healthy," and that immediately rang alarm bells. So like, oh, really? So I think sometimes people are just being naive.
Yeah.
Yep, like you say, Ross, they might not just listen. I've had that before where I've said to people, this is a working cocker, this is a show cocker for your lifestyle. And then I go and do a puppy visit a month later and they bought the working one. And you're like,
Because it's cuter.
you didn't listen. And it was cheaper, Les, sometimes. And I think,
Okay.
okay, so what I don't do in those situations, I don't know about you guys, but I go in and I help where I can. So I always try and find a positive within the scene, always try to help improve the relationship. There will be occasions, as a behaviorist, as an expert, I will say to them, this situation is not going to work here. It's
Hmm.
your decision. You are the owner. This is your possession, your responsibility. But my recommendation is this, or this. So that can sometimes be part of my job. But what also I always do is make the situation safe and then help them have a path. I support them. So that's just how I work. But of course, what I think people need to do is do their research. I said to you guys about this lovely lady I saw the other day, and that was one of the easiest puppy visits I've done in the last 6 years.
Hmm.
Mm.
Lovely puppy pack, not just a vaccination card. Yep, and they
Yeah.
vary hugely. Okay, and I always say when I go into the lesson, please can I see the paperwork provided by the breeder? Are you happy with the breeder? Was you happy with the breeder?
Hmm.
Yep. And honestly, guys, from COVID, that COVID period, I probably got 4 or 5 out of hundreds of puppies paperworks.
Mm.
Okay. Now I'm starting to see, I feel better bred pups. And this little pup the other day, energy wise, you can't guarantee anything with dogs. Environments change, the way children behave around the dogs, etc. There could be a higher percentage of predatory chasing in one context to another. So that flat or apartment, Ross, in London might not present the same issues as a country garden like we've got here. So I think you've got to be aware of those. But that puppy give that owner a big head start because she's done
Hmm.
her research. And there will be people that you can give information, and I get it, Ross, they won't listen. Um, but I think we've just got to keep on for dogs and their owners, educating, you know, stating the facts. And I do feel there's a big need to really understand the severity of bringing dogs from abroad, working dogs in pet homes, really getting, I think it's like domestication goes backwards a little bit for what we're asking them, as we discussed earlier on,
Mhm.
coffee shops, pubs, and those things. Does that make sense? Some of these dogs will just come over and muddle in, but the
Hmm.
majority of them just can't cope with these busy contexts that are, like you said, Les, back in the day, it might have been less dogs around. You could have that Staffy running alongside the BMX at the park. People maybe had different opinions, different cultures of what they see in a dog loose in a park. Now we have legislation, you've got to have collars on and those things. I still see in parks when I go around dogs with no collars, no
Mhm.
leads from the owner. They don't walk with treats, they won't walk with a toy. They've got no lure. I always say walking blind. Do other people think it's acceptable to let their dog chase wildlife? And they say, oh, it's just a squirrel or it's just a hare,
Hmm.
and you think, yeah, but if it then started, and I always use this as an example, it's like the cats. We let cats go out and express natural behavior.
Yeah.
Lady said to me the other day, "Oh, the cat brought up some sort of vole when I was at the house. She said, oh, it's a sign of love, apparently." And I thought, just imagine if that little patterdale brought a rabbit back up and dumped it on the doorstep. You'd be going,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
so
Yeah.
natural behaviors and these things. I think also we need people to understand behavior better, body language better. So I keep saying it, and I think the education's the key. But you are right, Ross. There is people in all walks of life, I suppose, in all sorts of professions that don't listen. I don't think
Mhm.
it's just with dogs, actually. I think it's with a number of different pets and animals, whether it be goldfish. I've had people say to me before, they're quite thick, aren't they, goldfish? They just swim around and forget after 3 seconds. And I'm thinking, looking at the bowl, well, it can't go up the Thames.
No.
It's got to go round in a circle.
Mm,
So
mm,
we don't know. Do you see what I mean? We're not just letting it express natural behavior. So sometimes the environment's the issue too.
I
mm,
think, like you said, education is, I mean, we can only do our best, can't we? And educate people that we can educate.
mhm.
hope that, there's some kind of legislation. I think it comes back a lot to the breeders, because if the breeders weren't selling dogs that shouldn't be, they should say to you, no, your home, you can't have one of my dogs.
Yeah,
You're not a suitable home for a Rhodesian Ridgeback. Consider another breed. Or, you know,
but they don't because they've got a litter to sell.
mm, and it,
Yeah, and sometimes I do think, guys, it's the breeder not knowing the lifestyle that dog goes into. So let's say we're a show breeder. We really want to win Crufts, biggest dog show in the world, and we want that Ridgeback to have a good head shape, back length, whatever, right?
yeah.
They're breeding for that. They might have six Ridgebacks in a place in Leicestershire, let's
Mhm.
say, where they have a big paddock. They have a sponsor by a food company. They run their dogs round in their area. They're then selling a puppy. Maybe they've bred for 4 or 5 generations, like Les said before with the gun dog people. They're then selling a puppy that's not going to have a paddock, not going to live with other Ridgebacks. It might end up at a barbecue where you've got the daughter bringing round the Chihuahua.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
this breed can say, my dogs have a lovely temperament. You're thinking, but how and where has that dog been, or genetics been proved in those contexts? Do you
Mm.
see my point? And
Mhm.
that's where I think sometimes it's not the breeder not being honest. They're breeding for what they need. And
Mm.
we as an owner or a potential owner need to be thinking, how will this energy suit my lifestyle?
Mhm.
And what I'm going to ask of it. Because they might sell a Ridgeback pup to somebody who lives quite solitary, has a big yard, lorry yard or whatever, and they get on fine with them.
But is it not the breeder's responsibility to find out as much information about the home that they're selling a puppy into?
100%. And
You,
if you
you
look at
know,
the lady I was telling you about with the Bernedoodle the other day, all the puppies had their little collars, red, green, yellow,
Mhm.
grey. She looked at each owner, and you'll get a lot of those owners will say to me, they were very intense. And I think, good, because that's what
Yeah.
they should be, and they were picking the right energy, the more tolerant puppy that they could see in the litter. They were picking the energy they felt best and doing everything they can, keeping in touch with,
Mhm.
and you could see even through the social media stuff. I always say to these parents, the dog parents or dog owners rather, what are they doing in terms of keeping in touch? She said she'll take the pup anytime. They can see other generations of those litters
Mhm.
on their socials. They can see what they're doing, and these are all the things we need to be aware of. This breeder is very responsible, doing it
Mhm.
right,
Mhm.
and so
Mhm.
there is examples of that. And I think, but the show breeders doing it right. Les, your gun dog breeders are doing it right for what they want. And
Yeah.
of course, what we've got to think is, what do we want? What are we going to be doing with this dog? Sometimes we don't even know that when it's a young dog. We might move, might have
No,
children.
no, you don't. And you see it certainly in my line where people get a puppy and it's only when the dog starts getting to 7 or 8 months they realise what it is they've actually got. And then they start doing, like for me, the pet gun dog stuff. And then they come to
Yes,
class for a little while and then they realise what the dog's capable of. And then they start getting interested in either doing scurries, working tests, going shooting. But when they get that puppy, they don't realise what they're getting. But and the good
sure.
ones will then go training and they'll train it in the way that breeding dictated. But um it's very difficult to say you should be getting the puppy to fit your lifestyle because lifestyles change a
And
lot.
a classic example of that, guys, is like when you, Les, take that young working Labrador, that high energy dog that you're after, you're chasing, you've got experience. Ross, you get your working Rottie or Shepherd, and you're going to do your working tests. These dogs are jumping 6 foot fences. You know you're going to do that. We don't want that doing that in a house in the middle of, Cambridgeshire, jumping a fence to get at a cat, because that prey drive might not be understood. Whereas you're going to do it, Ross, with a dummy or a retrieve article. Les, you're going to do that with a tennis ball, a dummy. And of course, we know where we're going with the energy. And you're right, these people might be then thinking, I've got a lot of work to do here now with this
Mhm.
dog. Now I understand it. But a classic one for me is the new house, the new build. We get a young couple maybe buying a puppy. 18
Mhm.
months later, in their new build, got the puppy, the dog's maturing. We might be then having a child. That's an example of a lifestyle change
Mm.
for the dog, for us. And then do we want this high energy working dog while we're trying to get a baby to settle? Yep. Do we want that? Have we got time for scurries then, if it's the gun dog setting, or doing left and rights or go backs, Les, as you all know, when we got a buggy there? So I've got a working Labrador here, and Sally, my wife, will walk her, leave a few memory retrieves. I'm sure you know what they are, where we leave the ball down, walk away, send her back to get it, and Sally can do that with a buggy or a baby in a sling. So we can appreciate the working dog while we walk. But Bertha was fully trained before the babies come along. So I'm appreciating the lifestyle changes. Hence why we haven't got another working lab. We've now got a little Jackapoo, who actually is quite high energy. Okay, but smaller, easier for me to deal with. If I leave to work, Sally got that energy. We know the energies we're bringing in. We know that we've got a toddler right now alongside a neonatal energy in terms of the puppy. She's just maturing. George is hitting 2. This puppy's maturing as a terrier type at 1. So what takes a child 25 years is taking this dog 9 months, right? So I think it's understanding dogs' development, how you might develop, how setting dogs up for change as well, and being aware that street dogs might just spend the first 2 years acclimatizing to our environment slowly with a novice, right? With someone who's experienced, we're going to give them a head start. We're going to understand what they need. I'm often teaching people while they're learning about these dogs, and it's hard. And that's the reality of it. And we need people to be aware of, and rescues and breeders, as we just said, to understand what situations they might be putting dogs into.
Absolutely.
Definitely. That's all very gloomy and ranty, isn't it?
I know.
Sorry if I'm going a bit
Even
off.
worse than we are, Ross.
I'm
And
very
we rant a lot.
We do have the odd rant, but it's nice to let you do it. So Adam, if people want to find out more about you and more about the Greenwich Dog Show and London House of Wellbeing and all that jazz, where do people go to find out more?
So the London House of Wellbeing have their own site, and the Greenwich Dog Show will be. You're going to be judging there, Ross, and a friend of mine called Lottie Gross is also be there as well. Travel writer. So there's lots going on at this event. It's going to be fantastic. It gives us a good opportunity to talk to many experts such as yourself and me. So if your dog's able to cope with that environment, and you're interested in your health and well-being and the dog's health and well-being, do come along to the event. It'll be great fun. And also, you could check me out on socials, Dog to Adam on Instagram. I'm mainly on there. My name's got an E in it, so it's ADEM. So do check us out. And my business is called Dog Ease.
Cool. Well, we shall look forward to seeing you in Greenwich on the 24th then for a bit of reflexology and whatever else we can get.
Yeah, have a great time.
Reflexology, Ross, but for dog information, I'm your man.
Have a really good time at the show.
Thank you both for your time and for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us, Adam.
Thanks,
Take care, guys.
Thanks for listening. It's not just gun dogs and not just guard dogs, but all things canine, as we hope you have discovered. Please like, share and subscribe and help us spread a bit of common sense back into dog ownership. And a review wouldn't go amiss either. Catch up with Lez and Ross again in about 14 days for more canine conversations. Until next time, stay well and enjoy your dogs. Any dog-related questions or topics, just drop an email to talk@cfba.uk or message us via facebook.com/Gun Dogs and Guard Dogs podcast.